A quiet home, a missing great-grandmother, and a grim discovery in the forest just 1 year later. For 30 years, the murder of Hazel Martin has remained an unsolved mystery. But we aren't just looking back at the past, we're chasing the truth as it happens. I am your host, Kate Colvin, and you are listening to an active, real-time investigation. This is Hazel's Last Hand. Welcome back. Because this is an active investigation happening in real time, our absolute priority is finding new leads. And to do that, we need the community's help. We have been so moved by how many of you have already leaned in, whether that's by sharing information, opening up during difficult conversations, or donating. The Hazel Martin Reward Fund was officially established through a donation from Ellie Helbling. Ellie is a Potlatch native, a mother of 4 amazing kids, and a real estate agent with Latah Realty. For her, giving back to the community where she is raising her family is incredibly personal. When she learned about this project, she immediately wanted to help us take the first major step towards justice. If you are looking for a real estate agent in Latah County who truly has the heart of this community in mind, you can find Ellie's contact information in our show notes. Now, let's get back to the investigation. Since I started research for this podcast, the question that I get asked most is, who do you think did it? It's a fair question, but far too often, true crime fixates its gaze entirely on the perpetrator, and the victims get lost in the noise. To be honest, I shuddered just saying the name of the individual arrested for the murders of Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee on last week's episode. That's not why we're here. Today, we're going to change the focus. Today, we're going to talk about Hazel and her last day. But rather than me telling you about who Hazel was, I wanted you to hear from someone who knew her heart. Someone who has carried her memory for 30 years and who is now standing shoulder to shoulder with me as we investigate this case to bring her family justice. Here is Hazel's granddaughter, Paula.
How would you describe Hazel to someone who has never met her?
She was loving. She was sweet. She was a very loyal friend. I don't know.
What role did she play in the family to you all?
She was all of our friend, and she was there for all of us, all the time. She always made time for us. She was the matriarch, I would say.
I think something that's so special about that is that she had great grandkids, like so many generations that she was able to love and to be the matriarch of. Like, what did that connection look like within your family?
Oh, yes. Tyson was the first great grandchild, and she babysat him. I lived next door, so I got to play with Tyson too. I don't know. She just kept us together.
Yeah. She sounds like someone who was just constantly there for the family, and everybody was stopping in and was present, and she was present in their lives. Does that sound true?
That is absolutely true.
And what were some of your, like, the fondest memories that you have of her?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. She taught me how to cook bread.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of bread?
Well, buns.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I paid attention quite enough because I've worked and worked and worked to make them come out perfectly like hers. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Still.
Did she teach you when you were young?
No.
When you got older?
No, yeah. We lived next door for 10 or 12 years next door to her. So I got to see her every single day.
I understand that connection. I actually grew up right next to my grandma and grandpa as well. And it was just something that was so special, being able to just like run next door, or, you know, doing crafts or projects with my grandma, or playing outside and building things with my grandfather. I think just like literally, you know, having your family next door is something in a small town that a lot of people, you know, larger cities might not get to experience. But it was just that access, right, of the love and support of a family member is so amazing.
Yep, that is it.
And I even saw you shared a picture with me of your daughter Whitney, and she was learning how to ride a bike. It looks like on the drive right in Hazel's outside of Hazel's property. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
What was a typical like day look like for Hazel? I know she was a very active community member, but can you like tell me what that looked like for her?
She was always up early, and she'd make coffee, make breakfast for her and Grandpa, and I think she cleaned her house every day. I don't know how she did it. I can't, but she cleaned her. It was always spiffy, always clean. She'd have a garden. She'd do flowers. She did vegetables. We had, what do you call them? The trees. They were willow trees, and so she was always out there raking, picking up the sticks and stuff. She was always busy, and she'd go quilting with the little ladies down at the clubhouse, and she took the great grandkids with her if she was watching them or if they wanted to go. She just took them with her, and they loved we called them the old girls. Grandma would take him down, and they would go down to see the old girls.
I love that. I think one of Whitney's memories is playing underneath the quilts during some of those like quilting club dates as well.
Yeah, they would crawl around under there, and yeah, I'm not sure that other ladies always appreciated them, but they loved them too.
Well, Hazel appreciated it, and that was all that mattered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she was involved in other community activities, obviously, like cards and Pinochle Weekly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, must have been in the spring, because that's when she was missing. They don't do it year round, but they did the cards playing, and she'd go down and play cards because she was a people person.
And a people person that was loved by the community. Obviously, like the family members, you know, she was so loved by you, but every single community member that I've spoken with has also like talked about how incredible Hazel was, and how she was just this incredible like energy and this friend, right, that just brought love and light wherever she was at. And I guess one question I would have is, would there be anybody that would ever want to harm Hazel, or would there be any reason for, you know, Hazel to be harmed? Is there anything that your family has thought about over the years?
No. Pretty sure we racked our brains, and there's no reason for anybody to have wanted to hurt her. I don't think somebody did want to hurt her. I don't know what. I think they didn't mean to do it.
Yeah. And I know that regardless of what happened that night, and over the, you know, the subsequent time following, where, you know, materials, evidence was discovered, I know that had absolutely devastated your family. But for people that are listening, over the past 30 years, like there's that initial devastation, but for not being able to find any answers for 30 years, and the case remains open, not closed, not cold, what has that done to your family?
So the people, we've lost people in 30 years, of course, and they all passed away without knowing what happened to her too, and that it makes us feel sad, I guess. I wish that we could have. I wish they would have figured this out.
Yeah. I know your mom, when they spoke to her, she said that she just wants to know why before she passes. And, you know, all the people that have passed that didn't get to find out. So I hope hope that through this pursuit we can do that for you, I guess. And on that note, I know that through our conversations, that you have said that you become hopeful again. Is that something that your family is feeling after all of these years? Is a sense of hopefulness?
Yeah. Yes. You are a light in the dark.
Well, thank you.
This is wonderful.
I'm thankful that you are leaning in and opening like your hearts and your memories to me. I honestly, without you and without the community leaning in to share information and to share Hazel's memory, we wouldn't be able to do this. If someone that has information were listening today, what would you want to say to them?
I would just say come forward. Tell you, reach out to you. Yeah. Reach out to anybody. You don't even have to, you can remain anonymous. If you know, it's just the tiniest little thing that would help move this forward. It would be very helpful. We would love that.
And on that note, I think we'd like to remind people that we have started a reward fund for any information leading to the closure of this case. And then you can always check the show notes to find the contact information for myself, for Idaho Crime Stoppers, and for the Latah County detectives who are currently in charge of this case. So thank you so much, Paula.
You're welcome. I hope that somebody will reach out.
I do too.
Hazel's last afternoon on May 17th, 1996, started like any other. She met family at their home around noon to play cards. She left around 3:30, making the short drive to her home to change and get ready for a night of pinochle with local community members. Once dressed in her matching tracksuit, she jumped into her pickup truck and drove to the Princeton Grange. Now, if you look at the Princeton Grange today, you won't find it. The hall has since been torn down and replaced, but back in 1996, it was the heart of the local farming community, situated just in front of the large grain bins clustered behind the property that sit just along the train tracks. Inside the Grange, the room was a sanctuary of small town comfort. It was the kind of night where everyone knew your name, your family, and exactly how you liked to play your hand. Neighbors sat shoulder to shoulder under bright fluorescent lights, trading tracking sheets, keeping score on scrap paper, and laughing over bad deals. That evening, Hazel split a cheese and tomato sandwich with her partner, fueling up for the games ahead. And that fuel paid off, literally. Hazel won top female player for the night, walking away with a whopping $7 in prize money. Smiling, Hazel said her goodbyes around 10 p.m. and stepped out into the cool Idaho air. For decades, the story went like this. Hazel climbed into her pickup truck for the short drive home. She would travel a mere 0.6 miles west on Highway 6, where the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit would have her pulling into her garage within 2 minutes of leaving the Grange. This, we were told, was the last time Hazel was seen alive. But I need to pause here and let you in on something I just learned. For years, the official narrative was set in stone. Everyone, including Hazel's family and myself, believed that she drove herself to and from the Princeton Grange that evening in her own pickup truck. But through our investigation, we're discovering that history might have been written completely wrong. Because it turns out, you see, that Hazel might not have driven herself at all. After we launched the podcast, a comment appeared on one of our Facebook posts about the case. It was from the granddaughter of Alvin and Alice Cowger, dear friends of Hazel's and her regular card partners. She wrote that her grandparents had been playing cards with Hazel that night. I immediately shot her a Facebook message, eager to hear if she had any additional information to share. And oh boy, did she. She said that her grandparents were actually the ones who gave Hazel a ride home that night. puzzled because this went against everything that we thought we knew. I reached out to Hazel's family to ask them if they were privy to this new piece of information, and they were definitely not. So I circled back to the cowgirl's granddaughter with a, "Are you sure?" And she checked with their mother, who firmly confirmed the story. The cowgirls did, in fact, give Hazel a ride home that night. Their granddaughter even shared a heartbreaking piece of the story. She said, "Grandpa always wanted to make sure she got home safe. He truly cared about his friends. I feel like he always felt guilty, like he let her down because something had happened to her." It was through this conversation that more details of that final evening really started to come alive for me. Hazel and Alvin were pinochle partners that night, and they were the ones who had shared the simple cheese and tomato sandwich. After Hazel had cashed in her $7 of winnings, the cowgirls loaded Hazel into their purple four-door sedan to take her home. Now, I want to pause here for a second. I know exactly what you're thinking. Why don't you just ask the Latah County detectives on the case to verify this? Trust me, I did. But right now, Hazel's file is currently at the Idaho State Crime Lab being digitized and is not accessible by the persons working her case for them to confirm this little piece of the evening. So in the meantime, while I wait for that confirmation, let's take ourselves back to 1996 and back to that purple sedan. Again, it was a brief trip, just 0.6 miles west on Highway 6 at a speed limit of 35 miles per hour. The cowgirls would have pulled into Hazel's driveway within a mere 1 to 2 minutes of leaving the Grange. Walk with me through this new timeline, and let's break down the mechanics of that night. To help you visualize this, picture Hazel's house. It's a quaint 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home that sits just off of Highway 6 to the south. To the left or east of the home sits a detached 2-car garage. Hazel would enter and exit the garage through a door on the southwest corner. She would then walk across a cement paving large enough for a car to park to reach the stairs that would take her into her home. Hazel was always known to enter and exit her home through the back door on the south side of the home. Now, let's look at 2 distinct possibilities. Scenario A, this is the new possible reality where she was dropped off. And then we have scenario B, which is a long-held belief that she drove herself. And we can rule out a third scenario, which would be her walking. And that's due to the historic flooding and brutal weather conditions that were occurring that night, which we touched on last week. Now let's look at scenario A, the cowgirl drop-off. Alvin pulls into Hazel's driveway, and Hazel steps out of the sedan. She climbs her stairs and enters her home. Because of the terrible weather, we can assume that she did not linger outside long, which likely explains why she didn't notice the window frame on the house that had been disturbed. But think about the timing. If an intruder was already inside of Hazel's home, this sudden arrival with the cowgirls leaves them 0 time to escape. If they tried to run out the front door, the cowgirls would see them with their headlights. If they tried to flee through the back door, they would run directly into Hazel. Did this drop-off leave the intruder or intruders with no choice but to hide and hope for an escape once Hazel was asleep? Now let's look at scenario B. This is where Hazel drives herself. In this version, Hazel pulls into the drive in her pickup. Instantly, the intruder or intruders inside would have been alerted as the headlights panned across her house. If they didn't see the lights, they would certainly hear the heavy grind of the garage door opening and closing. And an intruder would already be on high alert, listening for her to return. Scenario B actually grants them a small, crucial window of time to flee undetected while Hazel is occupied parking her truck, lowering the garage door, and walking out the side exit into the back of her home. Since I began researching this case, there's a nagging question that has ruminated in my mind. One major theory is that it was possibly a robbery gone wrong, and that there was never an intention to harm Hazel. If that's true, why didn't they just leave when they had the chance? Scenario A finally offers the explanation that quiets this question in my mind. They didn't leave the house because they couldn't. They were trapped. But what we do know is that Hazel did make it home after playing pinochle with her neighbors. She climbed the stairs to her back porch and stepped inside her home through the back door. Now, let's pause again for a second and map out the layout of Hazel's house, because understanding her space is definitely going to matter later. Imagine walking up to the back of the house. On the southwest corner, you step up a few stairs and enter an enclosed back porch. It was a functional space, your typical setup with a laundry room, a deep freezer. You get the idea. Once you walked through the back door, you'd find a bathroom directly on your right. To your left, the kitchen opened up into a connected dining and living room space. The front door was on the north side of the home, right off of the living room and facing the highway. But like we said, Hazel almost never used that door. Moving past the bathroom on the right, you would walk towards a large wood stove that was used to warm the home during the cold winter months. Tucked just on the other side of that stove sat a chair. This is the one that Hazel always used as a catch-all for her belongings. Right next to that chair was a doorway that led into a small hallway branching into 2 rooms. Hazel's bedroom on the right and a guest bedroom on the left. Here's a quick but crucial detail to keep in the back of your mind for later. Hazel actually used the larger closet in her master bedroom as a pantry and kind of storage closet, and she kept her clothing in the guest bedroom closet instead. File that away because it might become very important to note down the road. It was a completely normal routine. Hazel kicked off her shoes, tucking them neatly beneath the chair. On the seat of that same chair, she placed her purse, still holding the night's winnings and her extra cash. She walked into the guest bedroom where she kept her clothes, changed into her pajamas, and headed to the bathroom to get ready for bed. From everything that the evidence tells us, the final thing Hazel did that night was crawl into her bed in the master bedroom, just like any other evening. A quiet night in a familiar home, the last peaceful moment, and a story about to go terribly dark. Next week, we will dive into the morning after, the moment that Hazel's family opened the door to an empty house and the clock started ticking on a 30-year mystery. Before we close today, I have some incredibly exciting case updates to share as promised. Because of this podcast and because of you, our listeners, keeping the story alive, Latah County has officially assigned a task force to review Hazel's case as soon as it returns from being digitized. As we've talked about, her file was previously just paper, copies, and printed photos. Digitizing these files will allow investigators to navigate 30 years of records with entirely new and much more effective eyes. In addition, we had submitted a formal request to Latah County to allow us to conduct private cadaver dog searches as well as advanced DNA testing. The Latah County prosecutor said, "What do we have to lose?" and officially gave us the green light. In upcoming episodes, we're going to speak with a specialized dog handler who works with historic remains. These dogs are incredible. They are used in archaeological digs and can locate remains literally thousands of years old. We'll also look at advanced DNA testing, what it actually is, and how it applies to Hazel's case. Our ultimate goal here isn't just to identify the person or persons responsible for Hazel's murder. It's to find the rest of her remains, bring her home, and finally give her family peace. And when we talk about peace and the science of finding answers, we have to remember who we are doing this for. Whitney, Hazel's great-granddaughter, put it so beautifully when she reminded me of who Hazel actually was. Here's Whitney.
I was 9 years old at the time, and like a lot of kids, I was shielded from much of what was happening. Our community was so small that everyone knew everyone. Some of my favorite memories with Grandma were spending afternoons in the garden, walking to visit the neighbors, and playing for hours under the quilts while the quilting lady stitched and visited. And there was always an endless supply of Schwann's push-up pops waiting in the freezer. She was the kind of grandma everyone loved, always ready to lend a helping hand. In a place like ours, it's impossible to imagine anyone wanting to hurt her.
It's a chilling but necessary reminder. Hazel wasn't just a case file or a cold statistic. She was a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and a beloved member of this community. And she deserves so much better than what happened to her. And I'm still not done with case updates. If that wasn't good enough, a cold case investigator for the state of Idaho has also taken an interest in Hazel's case and is going to be conducting his own independent review once the files are digitized. To be honest, when I started this journey, I never anticipated this much movement from law enforcement this quickly. And that is entirely because of you. Your shares, your messages, and your passion have pushed this back onto the radar of the people who can make things happen. For the first time in 30 years, I, along with Hazel's family, truly believe that we are going to find answers. I am so humbled and so incredibly grateful. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you back next week. But in the meantime, we do want to encourage you to listen and subscribe to The Snake River Killer, another phenomenal true crime podcast covering unsolved murders down in the Lewiston-Clarkston area. The host, Brandon Schran, will actually be joining us for an upcoming episode on Hazel's last hand. We know you'll find Brandon's storytelling both deeply captivating and profoundly respectful of the victims. Search for The Snake River Killer on your favorite podcast app and hit subscribe today. You won't regret it. Hazel's Last Hand is written, produced, and hosted by me, Kate Colvin. Sound design by John and Holly Boswell. Research assistance by Andrea Rorick, Bonnie Scholes, Krisha Bunny, Paula Frazier, Whitney Dixon, and Ellie Helbling. Writing assistance by Brian Potter. This is a podcast for the community, by the community. Disclaimer: this podcast follows an active, unsolved murder case. This investigation is happening in real time, and all individuals are innocent until proven guilty by a court of law.